Okay, this video is going to show how to create an even more complex hatch pattern using the notepad and drawing it here in AutoCAD. And just as before, I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing the pattern out because it helps you for planning reasons. And you can see that I put some dimensions in here in green just to kind of help us think about this. I've drawn our circle that is, we're going to use this as our hatch boundary, and the 0, 0 is right there so that we can kind of have an idea. And of course, that's going to represent our 0, 0 there. Okay, so in order to create this hatch pattern, we'll begin by the same way. I've got my notepad open here, and I'm going to call this one called 45er. So star and then 45er will be our name of the pattern, and then I'll give it a description. I'll say 45-degree triangles. And then the first line that I'm going to draw is going to be this vertical line. Since 0, 0 is right here, I'll draw the vertical one first. So it's a vertical line. It's down for an inch. It's up for an inch. The X offset, okay, is going to, of course, it goes through 0, 0. The X offset will be to here, okay? So if it draws this line first, it draws this line second. Notice it's not going to shift it up or it's not going to shift it down. So my X offset is 0, and then the Y offset is, it's 2 inches. You can see that it's 2 inches from that line to that line. It's 2 inches from that line to that line. So if I come back in here, I'll say, okay, this first goes at 90 degrees. It goes through 0, 0. Okay, notice that here my origin is there. Okay, so it goes through 0, 0. My X offset is going to be 0. My Y offset is 2 inches. And then the line pattern itself is down for 1 inch and then up for 1 inch. Enter. Okay, so that's going to draw the vertical lines. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Make sure that I'm saving it in the right place. It's going to be called 45er. .pat, and we don't want that saved as a text document, so 45er.pat. Notice I've already got a couple others saved in here. Save that. And so now when I come in here, it should just draw, if I practice it, it should just draw the vertical lines at this point. So there's 45er, and it draws my vertical lines. Everybody's happy. Okay. The next one we're going to draw is that horizontal line. All right. So this is a horizontal line. The angle is going to be 0. The origin point is this point right here. It's not 0, 0, but it's 0, 1 because it's 1 inch above the origin there. The X offset will still be 0 because if it draws this line first, it draws that line second. This second line isn't shifted to the right. It's not shifted to the left. So the X offset is 0. And then the distance between will be 2 inches. And then finally, it's got a down pin for 1, up pin for 1, and then that repeats. So if we come in here and we say, okay, this next line goes at an angle of 0. It doesn't go through 0, 0, but it goes through 0, 1. My X offset is 0. My Y offset is 2. And then my line pattern is down for an inch and then up for an inch. Oops. Okay, and so that's got my empty line at the end, so now I can save this one. And when I come back over here and just update it, make it think about it a little bit, you can see that we've got what we've got the first 2 sides of our triangles. So now the third side is going to be this one here. There's 0, 0, so this one's drawn at an angle of 45 degrees, okay? It goes through 0, 0, and then the next things are going to be our X offset and our Y offset. So I'm going to move away from these dimensions that I have here for a moment, and let's just come over to here. Let's pretend that this was 0, 0. The first one that it's going to draw is this one. And then the next one that it's going to draw isn't going to be this one because it would skip these in the middle. So I actually want it to draw this one next. So if it's going to draw this one, then it's going to draw this one. My X offset going in this direction is going to be, if I draw some geometry in here, let me draw some geometry. It's going to draw this one first, it's going to draw that one second, but it's actually, you got to think of it as a triangle, or like this. So it's going to, here's my X offset, that's my X offset length, and then there's my Y offset length. So my X offset length is this distance, which happens to be the length of the triangle, or that line, and then my Y offset distance is that one. So it'll draw this one instead of that one, okay, if that makes sense. So that distance, this distance here happens to be the same as this distance here, 0 or 1.414. So I can come in here now and I can say, okay, this final line that we're going to draw, it goes at an angle of 45 degrees. It does go through 0, 0. But my X offset isn't 0 now, it's 1.414. And the Y offset is the same, 1.414. And then my line pattern is going to be down for that distance. Okay, so it's a down pin for this distance and then an up pin for this distance. And then it just repeats the same as it was before. So it's kind of nice that we've got these same numbers over and over again. So my down pin distance is 1.414, comma, my up pin distance is 1.414. Press enter. And so now we can file save this. And it looks like when we come back over here, if I just refresh this a little bit, hang on, refresh this, let it think about it a little bit, it looks fine and dandy. Okay, it's good, right? Well, it's only good from afar. Okay, if I come over here and I zoom up on this, notice that these points, I mean, they're perfect. They come up and touch. Okay, there's no issues there. But if I come over to these points, okay, and I zoom up on these, they don't touch. You know, they're off a little bit. Okay, notice if I come up on that one, it's off a little bit. If I come up on this one, it's off a little bit. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, what's the deal with that? Why is that off? You know, and here's the issue. If I were to come in here and draw another even larger area to hatch, and then hatch that thing, the further you get away, you know, it still has that same issue with those points being off. Ooh, that's not the right pattern. Let me pick my pattern here. Okay, so I want 45er. Okay, so see, it doesn't get any better. In fact, it gets worse the further away we get from the origin. So the way we solve this is we increase our accuracy on this number. See, this number is only accurate to a 10th, 100th, 1,000th place, all right? But if we want this to be super accurate, what we need to do is we need to kind of look at what that distance really is. So if I come in here and I say, let's change our units. And right now we're displaying the precision down to a 10,000th of an inch, okay? But if I come in here and I just crank this all the way down to as many zeros as I can get and say okay, then if I come in and I say, oh, what's my distance here from that endpoint to that endpoint, you can see that it's actually a little bit different than the 1.414. It's got some extra numbers in here that we didn't account for in the past. So in order to get that, what I'll do is I'm just going to take that number right there, and I'm going to copy it straight away, Control-C, copy it from here, and then when I come over here, I can paste it. Anywhere I see 1.414, I can paste it. So I'll paste it there, I'll paste it there, I'll paste it there, and I'll paste it there. And so now I've added, you know, and where before we were just going to 1,000th of an inch, now at 10,000th, 100,000th, millionth, 10 million, 100 millionth place. 100 millionth of an inch is pretty dang small, okay? So now I can save this, And when I come back over now and make AutoCAD think about this pattern again, nothing really changes until you zoom up on it, and then you could probably eventually zoom in there to where you wouldn't be able to see it, but if I keep zooming, it still looks like it's attached. Okay, so that's going to be a much better looking hatch pattern, especially when you get further and further away from 0, 0. So just something to be aware of when you're creating hatch patterns with angled lines. You need to take and go above and beyond that maybe three places that we were using here, and just get as many places. I took it all the way up to 8 so that you get more precise hatch patterns.